Imagine for a moment that every time you get angry, it isn't really the other person pulling the strings. It's your own inner dialogue. It's the conversation you're having with yourself in the privacy of your mind. That voice inside can either fuel the fire or put it out before it even sparks. Most of us think anger is caused by what someone else does to us. They said something offensive, they cut us off in traffic, they ignored our effort. But if you slow down and pay attention, you'll realize anger begins not out there, but right here inside. What you tell yourself about that event determines everything. When someone insults you, the words themselves don't have the power to ignite your emotions. They're just sound. It's what you decide those words mean that stirs you up. If your inner voice says, "This is an attack on me, I have to defend myself," you feel anger rise. If your inner voice says, "This isn't worth my peace," the moment dissolves. The difference between chaos and calm is the dialogue you allow in your own head. This is why mastering your inner dialogue is the foundation of staying peaceful. Without control over that voice, you are at the mercy of every irritation, every criticism, every unexpected turn. Think of it like a courtroom. Your inner dialogue is the judge, and every situation that happens to you is brought before it. The judge decides whether to hand down a sentence of anger or release it with peace. If the judge is untrained, impulsive, and emotional, the verdict is always anger. But if the judge is disciplined, fair, and calm, peace becomes the natural ruling. Now, here's the part most people don't want to admit. We are addicted to our inner arguments. We replay conversations in our minds, fueling outrage long after the moment has passed. We talk to ourselves in ways that amplify the wound. How dare they treat me like this? They don't respect me. They always do this. Notice the pattern. It's judgmental, it's repetitive, and it builds a story where you are the victim and someone else is the villain. That narrative feels powerful in the moment, but it steals your peace. It's like pouring gasoline on an ember. The discipline of mastering your inner dialogue begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. The next time you feel anger rising, pause and ask, "What am I telling myself right now?" Usually, you'll catch yourself repeating words of judgment or assigning meaning that may not even be true. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You assume they disrespected you when maybe they didn't see you. A friend didn't return your call. You assume they don't care when maybe they're struggling with something you know nothing about. Our assumptions poison our peace, and the antidote is questioning the story we're telling ourselves. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need replacement. The mind hates a vacuum. If you try to simply stop angry thoughts, they come back louder. Instead, you replace them with better ones. Instead of "they disrespected me," you shift to "I choose not to let this moment define me." Instead of "they don't value me," you tell yourself "their actions reflect them, not me." These replacement lines are not cliches, they are strategies. They cut the cycle of anger at its root, and over time, they train your inner dialogue to default to calm instead of chaos. This isn't about suppressing anger or pretending you don't feel it. Suppression is dangerous. It builds pressure until it explodes. Mastery is different. Mastery is noticing the spark, understanding its source, and deciding where to direct it. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. The greatest strength is not reacting instantly, but choosing your response with clarity. And clarity begins with the voice in your head. Philosophers have been telling us this for centuries. The Stoics believed it wasn't events that disturbed people, but their judgments about those events. In other words, nothing has the power to upset you unless you grant it permission through your inner dialogue. Modern psychology confirms this. Cognitive behavioral therapy, the most effective therapy for emotional regulation, teaches that thoughts create feelings and feelings create behavior. Change the thought and you change the entire chain reaction. This is not just philosophy, it is science. Let's make this practical. Imagine your boss criticizes your work in front of others. Your inner dialogue could say, "They humiliated me. I can't stand this." That leads to anger, defensiveness, maybe even revenge. Or your inner dialogue could say, "This stings, but it's one moment. I can learn something or let it pass." That doesn't mean you accept mistreatment. It means you choose not to let a 5-second comment rob you of hours of peace. The situation is the same. The story you tell yourself is different. And the story you choose determines your peace. Mastering inner dialogue also requires patience. You won't undo years of mental habits overnight. But every time you pause and redirect your thoughts, you strengthen a new pathway in your brain. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Each time you choose a calm narrative over an angry one, you carve a new groove. Over time, peace becomes not just a choice, but a habit. Anger loses its grip because your mind has learned a different language. The truth is, peace is not found in silence, meditation, or retreat alone. Those are tools. Real peace is found in the battlefield of daily life. When you train your mind to guard the words it whispers to itself. Every interaction becomes a test, every annoyance an opportunity, every insult a choice. Do you fuel the fire, or do you disarm it with discipline? Here's the reflection I want to leave you with. If you can master the conversation inside your head, no one outside can master you. That is true freedom, and freedom, more than anything else, is the foundation of lasting peace. Think about how often anger shows up in your life because of one thing, control, or rather, the illusion of control. We get angry because people don't act the way we expect them to, because situations don't unfold the way we want them to, because life refuses to bend to our script. Underneath most anger is a frustrated desire. This should have gone differently. They should have treated me better. I should not have to deal with this. That word, should, is the trigger. It reveals our craving for control, and when reality doesn't obey, we react with anger. But here's the truth: control is an illusion. You can't control how people think, how they feel, how they treat you, or how life unfolds. You can influence, yes, you can guide, you can encourage, you can model. But control, that's a trap. The more you try to control what's outside of you, the more anger you invite in, because life will constantly remind you that you are not in charge of everything. This is why choosing detachment over reaction is so powerful. Detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean you stop caring about people or that you numb yourself to life. Detachment means you separate your peace from the chaos of others. It means you stop handing your emotional state over to the behavior of strangers, coworkers, friends, or even family. When you are detached, you still notice what happens, but you don't give it the power to hijack your inner world. Picture this: you're in an argument, and someone throws a sharp insult at you. The natural impulse is to fire back, to defend yourself, to react. But detachment creates space. It allows you to pause and see that insult for what it is, a reflection of their mood, their frustration, their story, not yours. Without detachment, you absorb their energy and mirror it back. With detachment, you see it as something separate from you, and you choose not to carry it. That's not weakness. That is strength at its highest level. Philosophically, detachment is the practice of freedom. It frees you from being a puppet whose strings are pulled by other people's actions. Psychologically, it is emotional regulation, the ability to pause, step back, and choose. In relationships, it prevents cycles of conflict from escalating. In everyday life, it makes you resilient to disappointment. Because the truth is, the more tightly you hold on to how things should be, the more fragile your peace becomes. But when you practice detachment, peace becomes durable. It survives the storm because it is not tied to the storm. Now let's make this practical. Imagine you've worked hard on a project and your effort goes unnoticed. Without detachment, your inner dialogue might say, "They don't appreciate me. I deserve recognition." That resentment builds into anger. But with detachment, you remind yourself, "My value is not measured by their acknowledgement. I know the work I put in." That doesn't mean you never ask for credit, but it means you don't let the absence of it define your mood or your worth. You hold on to yourself instead of clinging to their reaction. Detachment is also about boundaries. When you detach, you stop taking responsibility for emotions that aren't yours to carry. Someone else's bad day doesn't have to become your bad day. Their criticism doesn't have to become your identity. Their anger doesn't have to drag you into battle. Boundaries built on detachment say, "I see you, I hear you, but I do not have to become you." The hardest part of detachment is learning that it feels unnatural at first. We are conditioned to react. Our egos crave control. We want the last word, the validation, the outcome we pictured. Letting go feels like surrender. But look closer. It's not surrender, it's strategy. It's saying, "I refuse to fight battles that rob me of peace and give me nothing in return." Detachment isn't weakness. It's refusing to be enslaved by the need to always be right, always be acknowledged, always be in control. The Stoics had a phrase for this: control what you can, accept what you can't. What you can control is limited: your thoughts, your words, your actions. Everything else is outside of your command. And if you can train yourself to pour energy only into what you can control, you will be unshakable. Anger loses its grip because you stop trying to fix the unfixable. You stop wrestling with reality. You stop demanding that life be fair, and instead, you become strong enough to remain calm even when it isn't. Think about water for a second. Water doesn't resist obstacles, it flows around them. A rock in the river doesn't make water angry. The river detaches, it keeps moving, it finds another path. It refuses to be stopped by resistance. That's detachment in motion. You don't deny the obstacle, but you don't let it block your flow. You adapt, you redirect, and you keep your peace intact. Now, let me be clear, detachment does not mean silence in the face of injustice or passivity when you should act. It means you respond from clarity, not from rage. A detached person can still speak up, still confront, still correct, but without being poisoned by anger in the process. They fight battles strategically, not emotionally. And that makes them far more effective because their energy is not wasted on reaction. Here's the deeper truth: detachment is an act of self-respect. When you detach, you declare that your peace is valuable. You refuse to give it away cheaply to every insult, every delay, every disappointment. You refuse to let your mood be owned by things outside your control. And the more you practice it, the lighter you feel. Suddenly, you're not weighed down by grudges, not dragged into unnecessary conflicts.